How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
Delhi Capitals have posted 183 for 6 against Chennai Super Kings on the back of 77 from 51 from KL Rahul, who moved up to the top of the order. What does that score mean? How challenging is it? What was the surface like? I can inform you that it's the highest total batting first against CSK at Chepauk in a day game since 2012. Let's now find out how good that total really is on Maruti Suzuki Arena. Presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout, where in the continued company of Mark Boucher, Wasim Jaffer, Matt Roller. Gentlemen, it falls perfectly between the predicted scores, Mark and Wasim. But is this where I inform our viewers that right after watching the first over, you felt like you predicted a few too many?
Yeah, I think that after watching the first over, I think I changed it to 160. Yes. So I think that they're above par, and largely due to, we spoke about Faf's injury. That could do a bit of damage to the leadership up front. Kale moving into that spot, I think, has been a bit of a blessing in disguise today. I thought he managed the batting order, beautifully throughout the whole innings. It was a little bit of a masterclass on a wicket that I think is a bit tougher than what that score actually says.
Yes, KL Rahul with 77 of 51 from the top of the order. You had Abhishek Porel score 33 of 20 from number 3. But that Rahul innings really becomes the focal point of where Delhi built this score. Wasim, what stood out to you?
Well, I think KL, the way he adapted, he took his time. He batted according to the pitch, to the situation. It could have gone pear-shaped had he got out to 30 or a 40, throwing it away. And because of him, the spinners could only bowl 8 overs, even though Aksar came in and Jadeja could only bowl 2 overs. So I think they batted really well. And the way he attacked Noor Ahmed as well, didn't allow him to settle down. And that was the most important thing in that innings. And then obviously batting till the end.
Yeah, I think absolutely spot on there. I think he was 20 off 9 balls against Noor Ahmed with 3 boundaries, and really looked like he properly went after him with great intent as well. And I think given the sort of aura around Noor this season with the purple cap and all of that sort of thing, it very much helps when you can take down the main man in the opposition. And yeah, I think that especially if we're expecting Delhi to bowl a fair bit of spin in the defence of that score, the fact that Chennai only managed to get through 8 overs of spin across the innings might well be something that we look back on and think maybe they could have done more. But I think KL's intent and that promotion of Aksar actually worked really well.
The value of that innings all that much more, given you were missing Faf du Plessis, who perhaps would have been an ideal candidate on this surface.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Faf, he's the leader up front there. He's batting around a few of the youngsters as well. And that's why I say it's probably a bit of a blessing in disguise that Kale was there. If there was one guy that you'd want to bat throughout the innings in these conditions in that team, it would be KL Rahul. It allows Porel, Aksar as stubs to play the way that they are most dangerous at, and that's play with a bit of freedom. And you only get that freedom if you know that the one end is getting looked after, and that's exactly how he played. I mean, some of the strokes that he made, just little subtle movements to open up different parts of the field, it was a genuine masterclass.
We often look at the versatility as almost a self-inflicted bane on KL Rahul in that he gets moved up and down. But this is where you see the true worth of being a batter as versatile.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you get from KL Rahul. He plays pace really well, plays spin really well. He can accelerate. We have seen that. He can play the situation. And today's was a masterclass. I mean, if you expect somebody who played 51 balls to get 100, but this pitch was different. So he, really batted calculatively. And like, Mark said, it looked like a 160, 165, but I think they've got far too many.
So would you agree with that sense that this is a score in total feeling 15-20 above par?
I think it's a competitive score for sure, especially when you consider that Chennai haven't really got going with the bat this year and that they've been particularly slow in the power play. If they got off to a flyer, it's maybe a different question, but given that they've been quite sluggish so far, I think it probably is a competitive score. I think one little area we might look back on if Chennai do get up and chase it is Patirana at the death.
Yeah, the last over.
The last 2, he didn't concede a boundary in the 18th or the 20th, which is so impressive. He's obviously a specialist in that role, isn't he? But I think he's one of the best at the moment. He comes into the attack late, assesses conditions, and then can really close out an innings like that. So I think, if Chennai do make a game of it, they'll look back and be grateful to him on a day where, Mukesh Chowdhury obviously struggled.
Yeah, and as did a lot of their spinners, because you look at Khalil Ahmed and Matisha Patirana, their 8 overs together, 56 runs with 3 wickets. So it could have been a lot worse. First, want you to focus on Khalil and Patirana, what stood out and how they kept runs at a premium.
I think Khalil started off very well. I mean, I don't know how he went in his first over. I think he had a lot of dot balls in his first over.
Just the one single.
Yeah, and the ball looked like it was sticking a bit. So he got off to a good start. DC were on the back foot straight away. They didn't panic though. So I think up front he bowled really well. Patirana, he's a tough customer to face at the death. We're speaking about left arm spinners, wrist spinners, and facing them. You can't train for someone who bowls at a side arm like that. So when you first come in and the wicket's a bit sticky, he's still bowling close to 150 clicks. So he's a tough customer to come in and just hit from ball one. He looked like he was a little bit wayward, a couple balls down legs. So that'll be a bit of a concern for Chennai. But when he comes into form, then he's very dangerous at the back end.
What will be truly concerning, Wasim, is the spin department, because we have seen in the first 3 games, Noor Ahmed's, of course, been excellent. He did, in some ways, carry Ashwin and Jadeja, who've not looked at their best bowling form so far. And today, on a day when the opposition tucks into Noor Ahmed, you see those overs of spin being far from as productive as CSK would have imagined.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why they had to bowl Mukesh, and he was expensive. And the way, KL targeted Noor in that mid-wicket or cow corner area, and the way Aksar came and Abhishek Porel as well took down Ravindra Jadeja, that actually minimized the overs, and the other guy has to come in, and they were expensive. So I mean, it was smart play from Delhi.
From the outside, you would have assumed you can close your eye and predict that there'll be 12 overs of CSK spin. As it turns out, there's only 8 and they've gone for 77.
Yeah, I've been really surprised actually this year how little Jadeja has bowled across the 4 games so far. He's only bowled 10 overs in 4 matches, 2 for 87 combined figures, which feels, especially when you consider that he was one of the top retentions along with Gaikwad, that feels like they've potentially underbowled him at times. I know there is obviously that reluctance where you've got the left arm spinner to the left-hander, but he did show today with the dismissal that it's not a complete impossibility. And I think particularly when the left-arm seamer was as expensive as he proved to be in Mukesh, you do wonder maybe they could have at least tried another over of Jadeja, given he's a senior player, he's a leader, he's played so much international cricket. I've been surprised that they've not used him more.
Where do you stand on what we've seen of Ravindra Jadeja so far this season?
Yeah, look, I think it could be the conditions as well. I mean, we've spoken a lot about the pitches. Today, I don't think so. Today, I think that, sometimes you've got to give credit where it's due, and we spoke about batsmanship, and the batsmanship was really good today. And I don't think they allowed their spinners to bowl. They took some smart options, some calculated risks against the big wicket taker Noor, and it sort of limited them to wanting to bowl with the change of pace and bowl the amount of spin that they probably wanted to at the start of the game. And that is just by some very, very good batsmanship.
Among that spin quota, Wasim, you see our Ashwin 3 overs for 21. I think he gave 8 in the 1 power play over and then 7 just after that. Do you think he should have completed his quota? Yeah,
he should have. And again, it surprises me that he doesn't bowl off spin to right-handers. Chennai is a bigger boundary, but with his carom ball, sometimes I feel it's pretty easy for a batter. If I am facing Ashwin and he's not bowling off spin, I am happy. It comes onto the bat. You can at least rotate the strike, and that's what we saw. I think he got cut for a boundary, and I think he gave another boundary. Other than that, they were all singles. But if he had trusted his off spin, which we've spoken about, that's where I feel he misses out. That's the only thing I feel.
We'll perhaps be able to have a fuller version of this discussion once we know the result and the end outcome. But Chennai Super Kings getting a slower surface in a day game, we thought pre-match that the concern would be how their batters adapt to a slow surface. Now, if their spinners, all of whom are so gun, are also not having a great time, is it going to start becoming all the more confounding for Stephen Fleming and company?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see how they go in pursuit of this score, I think, particularly with that new opening partnership or resumed opening partnership of Conway and Ravindra at the top. But yeah, I think you sort of hinted the point there, but I think it is interesting that what we've seen over the years with Chennai is generally very good batters against spin. Maybe less so this year, I would say, in terms of the makeup of the squad. I think if you look at the makeup of that side, you don't necessarily have the same destructive players against spin like back in the day with Rayadu, for example. So yeah, it will be interesting to see sort of looking down that team. I'm assuming that they'll put Dubé in as an impact sub, and I think he has a huge role to play as the guy that can be really, really powerful and destructive against spin in a way that it probably stands out as the outlier within that team to me.
Yeah, it is worth. I think we can tuck into the chase and what we can expect, because as Matt points out, this batting lineup has not had the best of times. And in fact, if you look at the first few games CSK have played, it's like Ruturaj Gaikwad and Rachin Ravindra have been playing one surface and the others have been fairly troubled. These are the numbers against spin. I know it's only 3 games, but Rachin and Ruturaj have looked the only batters who've really looked comfortable facing spin. Mark, Conway being added to that lineup.
Yeah.
You expect it to be better?
CSK will be very happy that they've selected Conway now, because they've got 3 players up front there who can potentially play the same role as what Rahul did. And that's what's needed on this particular pitch. A guy who's going to go out there and not smash it at a 200% strike rate, but look after one end for most of the innings and bat at 150 strike rates. And then they've got the players, Dubé's, he's due to come off. And, he might come in there and play that little 30 in 10 in 10 balls, which is what's needed to chase down a total like this. So they'll be very happy that they've included Conway into the equation today.
Shivam, Dubé key when you look at the batters lower down?
He's a very important player. I mean, that was part of the reason they did so well last year. Obviously, the top 3 has to do bulk of the scoring. But when he comes in with spin on a surface like this, he's very dangerous. And he will dictate, how much overs of spin that DC can offer, because Aksar is going to be there. Vipraj is pretty new to the IPL system. If he comes good, that's going to disturb their plans.
You talked up Noor Ahmed and Kuldeep Yadav before this game. We've seen Noor and the troubles he had. How do you expect Kuldeep Yadav to fare?
It would be really interesting, I think, again, sort of how they use him with the temptation to get him into the game quite soon after the power play, quite possibly. And as Was says, I think it's going to be really interesting, that battle with Dubé. I think we obviously saw one slow left armer in terms of left arm orthodox in Jadeja not bowl the amount of overs that we maybe would expect. So it'll be really interesting to see whether Aksar sort of gambles on himself. I think he does actually have a pretty good record against left-handers.
Yep.
Compared to most slow left arm orthodox anyway. So it'll be interesting to see whether he sort of dangles that carrot and has that attacking option of trying to get Dubé out, do him in the flight, get him caught deep mid-wicket.
Yeah, and he's got out this season. He's got out a few times trying to hit, which didn't happen, last couple of seasons. So it's going to be interesting. It's worth a try. If he gets out, it disturbs their plan completely.
Some amount of intrigue to see how Akshar Patel, the captain, uses Akshar Patel, the bowler, because we've thought for a lot of years that perhaps it's captains who don't want to bowl him when you see left-handed batters in front of him. But he did the same to himself against Lucknow in their first game.
Yeah, he'd be stupid being the captain not to bowl himself, because he's a quality bowler. And he's smart as well. He's almost like an Ashwin sort of mould. So, yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see the start that Chennai have. I think that's going to be very important, the power play. When you go to Chepauk as a captain, you've got to be smart. And I think that Akshar, he needs to get his decision-making right today. And I think they've got a very good chance of pulling this off.
Yeah, this also feels like a kind of surface, Wasim, where a Mohit Sharma could be a tough bowler to attack.
Yeah, with his slow bouncers and his variation, it's going to be difficult. So yeah, at the back end of the innings as well, it's going to be important how he bowls in the end.
All right, should be a riveting watch. Can confirm it's Rachin Ravindra and Devon Conway who have walked out to open. So Ruturaj Gaikwad will continue at number 3. Let's tuck into predictions, and it's not just the result I want the most important question answered as well. How many balls will MS Dhoni face?
I think DC will defend this in a reasonably tight game, and I reckon Dhoni will only have a little cameo at the end of 5 balls.
10 runs, 12 runs?
Something like.
Wasim.
DC to win, MS probably 8 to 10 balls, I would say.
Yeah, I'm going to go, I think DC are in the driving seat at the moment. I'd like to see Dhoni come in a little bit earlier. I think he can have a big impact on the back end of a game. So, yeah, I'd hope to see him face at least 15 balls. He's hitting a ball sweet at the moment.
You echo the sentiment of more than half of Chepauk most days. They all want him to come out early. And forecaster agrees with most of you, because we've got Delhi at 58%. As per ESPN Cricket Info's forecasters, CSK at 42. Can they chase down 184? There was a day game a couple of seasons back, which Wasim Jaffer remembers fondly, where 200 was scored and then chased by Punjab Kings.
Yeah.
That's
I
not
remember.
altering your thoughts on this prediction.
No, I think a lot of things have changed since then.
Yes, they don't have this batting coach in the chasing ladder, do they? All right, we'll be back here at the end of the chase, which is also when we'll start building up to the second game this Saturday doubleheader. That's Punjab versus Rajasthan Royals. So be sure to join us a little later in the day on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket 4 Timeout.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.